Hi, everybody. So I am on here just to discuss a little bit about what is on my mind. And on my heart. I'm going to discuss validation today. And what brought this up for me is hearing a certain comment from someone that I love, and it was out of love, obviously. However, I let it ruin my mood. And then I realized how, even though my motto, even in the past, I love that statement about not allowing the criticizing remarks to be important as well as some of the validation remarks. And, kind of keeping it neutral because you have this self-validation. So you have this piece of you that you can always come back to. You're centered, you feel sovereign, and it doesn't really matter what anyone says. You still are secure in yourself. And so realizing that, I journaled about it, and I decided that I can be a bit sensitive, which is a superpower too. However, we can also allow it to define who we are. And I think that's when it becomes a problem. You can take what people say to you with a grain of salt. And if it resonates, maybe it's something that you need to hear. And, you can decide what you do with that information. But it doesn't take away any part of your work and what you are doing and what you're passionate about and what you believe in. You can decide. You have the ability to decide, okay, does this resonate with me? Is this true to me at this moment? Or if it's not. And maybe that person could be right about what they're saying. Maybe it could be true. And maybe it's not for you at this point. Maybe there's something you need to learn before you decide that it is true. Or maybe it's not true at all. Maybe you decide like it's not true at all and it isn't. But always coming to decide for yourself and having emotional regulation where instead of reacting or choosing how you react, because there always is going to be some type of reaction. Even if there's no reaction, that's still a reaction. However, I've noticed in the past that when people said certain things to me, I would tend to spiral. And it would take me a really long time to come out of that spiral. And now I typically, it takes a lot quicker for me to come out of that or to understand where I am. And sometimes there'll be days where you just are in your emotions and maybe you're just sad, and maybe especially if you dealt with depression before and you just feel like you're in this deep slump that you absolutely can't get out of and nobody can talk to you about it. That is another video. But even when you're in these really dark places, there is still something to learn from them. There's always something to either be shown about yourself, because a lot of times relationships, and I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, but relationships in general with our parents, our friends, our family members, they all can really show us something about ourselves. Now, yes, people project onto us sometimes what is going on with them, and maybe it has nothing to do with us, but I think what part does is, what is it triggering within ourselves? Because that's the part that we may want to take a look at. So if it's triggering us to think less about ourselves or about our worth or about what we're doing or whatever, so how sure are you about what you're doing? How deeply do you trust yourself? Maybe that's something that is showing that you need to look at. So these are just another opportunities to learn and for growth, and a part of this life game that we're playing, and that we get to see these different sides of ourselves, these different parts of ourselves. And I think what we can really see is how we put judgment on all of this stuff, because sometimes, especially when we learn a lot in the self-help space, you probably read a lot of books, whatever, looked at a lot of podcasts, you are, truly becoming aware and everything. So I think sometimes, especially when you find a place of deep awareness, sometimes we can be even more harsh on ourselves about any particular thing. And at the end of the day, we're supposed to find some play and some enjoyment in life. That is a part of life also. And there will be times where we may not do or be the perfect person, or maybe there is something that we can alter to make something better, or something more aligned with what we want to put out there or portray or want to be. And all of that is okay. What a gift there is to really get that reflected back to you, and what a gift it is when you become aware of it, and to be able to process your feelings and still have the grounding and the safety, the feeling of safety, to feel safe within yourself, to be able to still express yourself, to still be yourself, and still be you. So that's all I had to come over here to say. Just a little bit of talk about self-validation. And I think it's perfectly normal to want to be liked and to, like attention in some senses. I think that is a normal way of life. And I think some people maybe like more than others. And I think a lot of times that's the reason why some people, especially women, have fear of being seen. It's probably men too. They got fear of being seen. And a lot of times that takes you away from your pure essence, who you truly are, and who you're discovering about yourself, and the layers that we're shedding about ourselves to be who we truly are. So let me know if you like to hear more about this subject or anything else, and I will talk to you soon. Have an amazing day, evening, wherever you are, beautiful people. Bye.